Bucket List of the Dead is a 2023 anime that was created by Haro Aso. The show tells the story of a worker named Akira who works in a foreign finance company and is bullied and worked around the clock before a zombie outbreak finally makes him feel alive. Now, I remember watching the first few episodes around my birthday weekend. It was back when I was on a trip to Hollywood, which half of that footage for my birthday I lost somewhere, so unfortunately I wasn't able to show you guys half of my beautiful vacation. But one of my favorite things to do around that time was watching a few of the first episodes that come out of this show, and I was really digging it. I was really digging the world building, the zombie outbreak elements, but also the fun atmosphere of the main character Akira has spewing throughout the entire runtime of each episode. This is such a likable character, as I imagine a lot of people wish they would have his level of optimism. This is like Goku levels of nicety and naivety, and I think it worked very well here, considering that he's being faced with a very dark part of his life now that almost everyone around him is basically dead. He is still trying his damn best to see the positive side of things, and to push that forward, he creates this bucket list of things that he wants to do before he becomes a zombie. It's not quite up there to 100 yet, but it's gradually growing and growing as he starts to find more and more things in this world that he has missed out on. And the whole show revolves around that, how him being worked to death basically, like he has no soul, almost no soul left in him while he was working. The only part that ever gets him happy was this cute woman that he fell in love with. But even that element of his life has many dark places that even he's aware of and is unsure of if he's able to accomplish being able to get with such a woman. And once this whole outbreak starts and he sees that now everything during this part of his life is now gone, it is quite remarkable how he was able to actually face that forward with optimism and try to look forward to the future and what else he's able to do now that all the restraints in his life have been broken. He's able to go as free as he wants. In many ways, it's pretty heartbreaking seeing him at this state in the beginning of the show, and it becomes very rewarding how he is now able to feel free more than he ever has before. But in a way, that comes at the cost at some happiness. There's always a give and take within this section of the episodes, and I love how this show was able to explore that in many humorous ways, but in also many serious ways. Later on in the series, we then meet a couple more people that would eventually join him in this group. He meets his former best friend Kencho, who has been in the rut of the zombie apocalypse and is having a lot of self-doubt within him. And it's not until Akira comes back into his life and they start to form this bromance once again that has been long lost since they separated from high school. It is very nice to see them actually bond. We learn a lot about their friendship from the past and how they still act now, and how they've grown since then after high school, and how they are dealing with the apocalypse. Is very interesting to watch as we are seeing these two characters learn again from each other in different ways, and it's very fun to see them actually form this friendship once again, as Kencho is starting to become less sad and less doubtful of himself, and is forming that same optimistic energy that Akira has. And this kind of reminds me about how Goku in Dragon Ball Z basically changes a lot of characters around him. Him as a character, as a person, personality-wise, doesn't change much. In fact, even growth-wise, he does have little change after Z. But the main consistent thing that is part of Goku's character in Dragon Ball Z was how the world changes around him and how he changes it, how people look at him, how they identify with him. That same kind of characteristic that Goku has can be applied to this character here with Akira. And he basically changes a lot of people around him, mostly for the better, like what Goku does. I'm comparing this character a lot to Dragon Ball Z. I'm sorry, I'm just a big Dragon Ball Z fan. But it's really nice to follow a character who may not have the biggest character development, even though later on he does have quite a bit of growth, and we'll get to that. It's nice to see in this first half how we see him change everyone's life, mostly for the better, despite them all being in a completely shitty situation. Another character they meet later on is named Beatrix, and she is a foreign woman who is basically going to Japan just for fun. She wants to explore the culture, but unfortunately she has to do it in a zombie apocalypse. And because she is introduced a little bit later, she's probably my least favorite of the entire group of 4 that we see here. Even though she is fun, upbeat, funny, and charismatic, and is definitely fun to watch, as a character, I find her to be lacking in the characterization. Though, I will say, for what she does have in the later half of the series, she is really entertaining and is definitely a standout. Just compared to the other characters, because I followed them more so, she kind of stands out as the least interesting of the bunch. But that isn't to say that she isn't a bad character. She's still fun. Her own episode explored her character very well and made me care for her. So I really like that element of her character, how she is still able to feel like a natural person with stakes and is forming actual relationships. Now the 4, she's the one that is the most unknown to everything. She is basically a foreigner. So having someone who is basically the most uncommon one out of the group makes this group stand out a bit more in terms of variety, you know? But I think the character everyone is going to come out this show thinking about is Shizuka. This is a character who we've seen glimpses of in the first few episodes, and she is a bit of a mystery until she joins the group. She's more so the more serious one. She takes everything around her seriously, and compared to everyone else, she isn't as upbeat, at least at first. She slowly goes into that more upbeat attitude, but she is still somewhat the more serious one of the bunch. And that is mostly due to a very traumatic childhood that she had, as explored in the middle chunk of the series, that basically revolves around something that is pretty comparable to John Wick, is all I'll say. But I really liked how this episode explored her character, and it contextualizes everything we've known from her before, her actions and what she's done at this point so far. And then in one of the later episodes, during a major turning point for Akira's character, who is at this point of the series faced with something of his past now coming back to him, after everything she's been through with him, through all the troubles of trying to survive this zombie outbreak, she lays down everything positive that Akira as a character was able to give to her, and tell him up front to not give in to these terrible aspects that have basically destroyed his life, but embrace who he is now, what he's done so far now for everyone who cares about him, and to not let go of his dreams. And I feel like that part of the series is probably the most impactful and closes out this chapter. From when it started to at this point in the series was done pretty well. And then in the last few episodes, this is where it's going to be a little bit more spoilery, because there's some things here that I don't want to talk about without you guys not knowing. So if you haven't seen the show yet, go watch it and then come back to this portion of the video. Okay? Okay. So Akira and his friends goes to his hometown where he grew up, and it's more so a small little farming town with a few small houses and a few people scattered around. Some are survivors of the zombie outbreak from the city, and they took shelter here. And everyone is living a good life. The crops are healthy, they're able to close off all the zombies. But unfortunately, they took in a few people that are pretty terrible. They're basically the dark, edgier, evil version of Akira and his group. And this group hates the world around them, whereas Akira's group loves the world and is trying to see the best in everything, while this group is selfish and wants to see everything burn. And we slowly start to realize why. And I won't spoil this part in case you're still watching who haven't seen it, but this evil group is doing so many things for selfish reasons. So the show is basically having our characters face who they could have been if they went down this certain path, which we seen that they didn't take in. And I really liked how we were developing these bad guys, even though they come up a little bit later in the series, definitely in the last half. We are still able to develop them enough, focus on them a little bit enough so that they can feel like characters that you feel threatened about, and then we gradually learn about who they are during this battle as we see that they're doing very despicable things. And at one point it leads to a very emotional moment for the ending that actually got me to tear up quite a bit. And how this whole portion of the story concluded, and how Akira is able to come to his family and try to make amends. I think how it handles that aspect of Akira's character and how it closes his character journey at this point, and then how it's now going to be developed in a possible second season, I just found very investing. So as a story, while there are so many moving parts going around, definitely a lot of chapters, it's definitely serialized, it worked very well. I found the stories and ideas to be very compelling, the characters to be very likable, and the overall atmosphere and tone, perfect. It's able to take things seriously very well. It's able to be humorous when it needs to be. Overall, the tone and atmosphere of this entire anime was just how I wanted it to be. The action is a whole lot of fun. The animation is stellar, crisp, and just colorful. Mwah! This is Chef's Kiss animation. The way this looks was just beautiful. It felt very distinct. It felt very unique. It's stylized. I overall love the type of anime this is going for, especially as a zombie story. This is probably one of my favorite zombie shows so far. I mean, I haven't seen Walking Dead. I don't watch that show. But I think this is probably my Walking Dead, which is probably easier for me because I'm a big anime fan. So, I don't know, take that as me being biased, I guess. But I really dug what this show was able to do with this kind of premise and how they're able to explore these characters. The music is great also. The atmosphere of the songs are fun. I love the opening and closing songs so much. And I actually don't skip them whenever I do watch these episodes. They are really that fun to listen to. If I do have to pick problems, it's again Beatrix's character being a little bit less interesting than the other characters, and definitely the bad guys that we are exploring in the later parts of the episode definitely felt underdeveloped, and I wish we could have gotten a little bit more glimpses of them beforehand. But overall, Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead to me is a great anime. I love the animation. I really enjoyed the storytelling. I found the character to be very likable, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone who is a fan of anime or of zombie media. This is like the perfect Halloween anime for you to watch during the spooky season when it comes around. I'm probably going to rewatch the entire anime at that point once again because I really enjoyed it that much. So overall, this is a big recommendation for me, and I'm going to give Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead an A-. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.